Hello everyone, back again with movie and tune recap. Today, I'm going to explain an American supernatural horror film from 2020, titled Behind You. Spoilers ahead, so watch out and take care. The movie begins in 1979, where we meet Beth, a teenager reading a scary story to her little sister, Angela, and also with them is Beth's boyfriend, Charles. Angela turns on her music box before going to brush her teeth, and while the teenagers are alone, the music box suddenly stops. To their surprise, they see Angela staring at something. She points at her own reflection, and suddenly, a pair of hands appear and grab her from behind before the door shuts on its own. 40 years later, two girls are taken to live with their Aunt Beth and Charles after their mother has passed away and their father is taking forever to come get them. The eldest is Olivia, and the youngest is Claire, who also has a stuffed toy bunny, named Lucy B, through which she communicates because she's traumatized by her mother's death. Aunt Beth clearly tells Camilla, who is in charge of the girls, that she doesn't want the girls at the house, but Camilla manages to convince her to let the girls stay considering what they have been through. After Camilla leaves, Aunt Beth shows the girls their room and tells them some rules they need to follow. She reveals that the girls should be in their room before 10 p.m. and shows them her study room and a locked basement, instructing them not to enter. Aunt Beth tells them that if they hear any noises in the night, they should ignore them, and disobedience to any of these rules will attract punishment. Later in the night, Charles prepares dinner for the girls and is a much better companion than Aunt Beth, who is still frowning at the girls. He made some weird stew that Olivia eats, but Claire doesn't. However, when she's prodded to eat, she chokes on it because Charles has put peanut butter in the stew, which Claire is allergic to. Olivia rushes to get the EpiPen and stabs her sister's thigh, saving her life. Later, while using the bathroom, Olivia notices a large mirror covered with a wrapping sheet. As she tears the sheet open, she sees a ghost in the mirror, but when she turns, she doesn't see anything. Continuing, she sees the ghost inside a bathtub, which frightens her. Looking back at the mirror, Olivia sees the ghost holding her, prompting her to quickly run to the bed and hide under a blanket. In the middle of the night, Claire is awakened by voices in the dark, instructing her to do exactly what Aunt Beth instructs them not to do. Claire enters the study room with her bunny and finds Aunt Beth sleeping after drinking wine. She finds a box in the drawer, retrieves a key with the help of the voices, and heads to the basement. Claire finds mirrors in the basement, and someone begins writing in the dusty mirrors. Claire thinks it's her mother who wants to come back into the living world, and she agrees to help. She is told to repeat the words that will open the mirrors and help the spirits come outside. She says the rhyme 3 times and sees something in the reflection. The next morning, Olivia wakes up to find Claire not in bed. She frantically searches for her and eventually finds Claire hiding in a broken elevator, who reveals that Aunt Beth wants to harm her. Claire then takes Olivia to the study room and shows her a newspaper clipping that Aunt Beth has saved all these years because it is about her being convicted for killing her parents and sister. Olivia realized they are in trouble and calls Camilla, revealing what they found about Aunt Beth and telling her she should come and take them from here. Meanwhile, Aunt Beth, who is in the study room, discovers the box has been moved, suspecting someone has been in her study room. Later, while having dinner, Aunt Beth asks the girls if they would like to stay a little longer, which Olivia refuses. However, Claire, who is feasting on dinner as if she's never eaten before, reveals she wants to stay in the house rather than go with her father, with Beth and Charles exchanging uneasy looks. The next day, Olivia wakes up and notices Claire talking to herself, saying she wants to get it out while scratching her stomach. Olivia is shocked to see Claire injuring her stomach, and when she tries to stop her, Claire pins Olivia to the wall and begins strangling her. Eventually, she stops when Aunt Beth enters the room, suspecting something is wrong, and decides to take Claire to the hospital. The next day, while waiting in Charles's car for her sister so they can leave the house, Olivia spots a knife and a gun in Charles's car, prompting her to run into the house to look for Claire. However, Olivia is confronted by Aunt Beth and Charles, who are now aware that Claire entered the basement. Olivia attempts to run away, but Charles catches her and pins her to the ground, and Aunt Beth tries to force a drug into her mouth. After being threatened with a gun, Olivia eventually gives in and takes the drug willingly, feeling dizzy afterward. Later, Olivia awakens and finds herself locked in a room. Thinking of what to do next, Olivia suddenly hears the voice of Camilla outside, who has come to pick them up. Charles tells her that the girls are sleeping and she should come tomorrow to pick them up. As Camilla leaves, Olivia bangs on the window to gain her attention, but her efforts fail. Thinking all hope is gone, Olivia hears some noise at the window and is surprised to see Camilla, who promises to help get them out. Olivia tells Camilla to get the gun that is inside Charles's car, and at the same time, Charles heads to his car to retrieve the gun and knife but finds the gun missing. Suddenly, Camilla appears behind him and threatens him with the gun. They head inside, where Camilla instructs Charles to go get Olivia and Claire, who are locked in the basement, which he does. As they are about to leave, Beth warns that it will not allow Claire to leave the house, but Camilla just locks them in the basement. The trio gets into Camilla's car, and as they are about to leave, Olivia reveals she left Lucy B inside the house, and she wants it back. Olivia decides to go get it for her. She can't find the bunny anywhere, so she decides to check their room. But when she comes downstairs, she sees the doll blocking the door. Olivia goes outside and sees bloodstains on the car windows, and to her surprise, she sees that Camilla has been killed, and Claire is nowhere to be found. Olivia goes back into the house and lets Beth and Charles out of the basement. Aunt Beth reveals that the house is inhabited by an entity that wants to come into the living world. According to Beth, her sister, who is possessed, killed their parents, so she had to kill her in order to stop the entity from coming out. She says she happily took the blame for the murders but came back to the house to stop the entity once and for all. Beth also reveals the entity wouldn't allow Claire to leave the house premises and hopes there is another way to stop the entity rather than kill the body it wants to possess. On the other hand, Olivia decides to question Charles about the incident, and he reveals the real murderer is not Aunt Beth, but him. He admits he's still with her because Beth didn't involve him during the investigation, allowing him to live a normal life. Shortly afterward, Aunt Beth joins them, and they begin to look for Claire, with Olivia and Aunt Beth searching for her inside while Charles searches from outside. Olivia went to the bathroom to continue her search but started hearing a music box playing. Suddenly, she is attacked by Claire, who is holding a butcher knife. Olivia manages to escape and hides inside the broken elevator, but the elevator turns on and transports Olivia to the basement. She harms herself before walking around and again encounters Claire, who is about to stab her. Aunt Beth and Charles arrive in time and cover the possessed Claire with a piece of cloth before tying her up. Aunt Beth reveals that to drive away the spirit, they need something that belongs to Claire, which Olivia calls her bunny. Olivia and Charles went upstairs to get the bunny, but as soon as Olivia entered the room, Charles locked her inside. After giving Claire sedatives, Aunt Beth and Charles placed the unconscious Claire on a plastic sheet before tying her hands. Meanwhile, Olivia, who is locked in the room, manages to escape when the entity begins to turn the doorknob. Olivia holds Aunt Beth and Charles at gunpoint before they can harm Claire and urges them to stay away from her sister and drop the knife. Aunt Beth reveals that killing Claire is the only way to stop the entity, and if it gets out, many other people will die. As Olivia attempts to take the knife, Charles manages to take the gun from her and decides to take her out of the room for Aunt Beth to carry out the ritual. However, Olivia manages to convince Charles that there should be another way to drive away the spirit rather than killing. Charles is easily swayed by this speech and decides to help Olivia by turning against Aunt Beth. After tying Aunt Beth up, Charles and Olivia think of another way to get the evil spirit out of Claire. Since Claire is allergic to peanut butter, their plan is to feed her peanut butter so that she chokes. Then, when the spirit leaves her, they will revive her with an EpiPen. After feeding the peanut butter to Claire, she starts shaking, as does the room. Shortly after, the evil spirit comes out of her in the form of black smoke, and Olivia manages to revive Claire after giving her the EpiPen 3 times. The next day, as the girls are about to leave, Charles is glib when he tells them Beth is in a sour mood because she was sure stabbing someone was the only way to defeat the evil. On the other hand, Claire reveals she can't find Lucy B but is no longer bothered, and before the girls can leave, the front door shuts on its own. Charles quietly tells the girls to move to the back door, and in the process, Claire is dragged to the basement by the entity. Aunt Beth joined them, and after a bit of struggle, Charles managed to open the door, where they saw Claire hiding. As Olivia attempts to reach her, the entity pushes her toward a mirror. Aunt Beth and Charles get Claire out of the basement, and at the same time, Olivia spots the entity through the mirror and uses a piece to harm the entity before running away. The group goes to the study room, and after locking the door, the entity violently shakes the door to open it but eventually leaves after it fails. Aunt Beth tells them that the entity is now caught between both worlds, which is why it can hurt them and needs Claire to gain access to the world fully. However, Olivia reveals she was able to see and hurt the entity, which gives Aunt Beth an idea: they can kill the entity for good. They break mirrors in the study room and harm themselves with each piece so that they can use the mirror to see the entity. Suddenly, the lights go off, leaving the group in panic. As Claire turns on the flashlight, a door behind her opens, and she is dragged in by the entity. As the group tries to look for her, Aunt Beth and Olivia get separated from Charles when they are locked in a room. Meanwhile, Claire finds herself in their room and manages to see the entity through the mirror. She stabs it, and the agony from the entity draws Charles's attention. He manages to open the door and finds Claire suspended in the air. Eventually, the entity leaves her, and as Charles attempts to stab it, the entity grabs his hand and uses the piece of mirror to stab Charles's throat, with Claire watching helplessly. The entity threatens her to say the words, or it will kill the rest, prompting Claire to rush out of the room. Meanwhile, Aunt Beth and Olivia, who manage to open the door, head to the basement to look for Claire. However, Aunt Beth is attacked by the entity, and Olivia is knocked over with a pinball. After regaining consciousness, she witnesses the entity proceeding to stab Aunt Beth with a pole but gets distracted when Claire begins to say the words. Aunt Beth witnesses the entity trying to escape from the mirror and tells Olivia to stop her sister from saying the words. Beth decides to be a martyr and says the word herself while holding a piece of a mirror. She then gives Olivia the mirror and instructs her to kill her, which Olivia doesn't like. The entity starts entering Aunt Beth's mouth like black smoke. Eventually she becomes possessed, and Olivia stabs her immediately, putting an end to the entity. Olivia finds her weeping sister and comforts her before the police and ambulance show up. Olivia and Claire are taken to the ambulance, and some of the police inspect the house, and they are shocked to find the corpses of Charles and Aunt Beth. A police officer informs the girls that this incident would be treated as a murder-suicide, and they witness the corpses of Aunt Beth and Charles being taken out of the house. Inside the now isolated house, a candle is seen burning inside the basement and suddenly blowing off as the movie concludes. Okay guys, that's all the recap about Behind You from 2020. Thanks for watching, see you again in the next video.